Hey Truth Seekers, it's Nathaniel and Carolyn here, and today Carolyn is going to be doing her deck profile for her Levi starter deck budget deck.
Percy deck.
Oh, Percy deck.
Which, as he said, our Truth Seeker is Levi. So he is the only one that comes in the starter deck. So unfortunately, if you're going to be doing a budget deck, as we suggest if you're on a tight budget, unfortunately he is going to be the Truth Seeker that you're stuck with. Unless you have cards from a previous series or something like that. You can also trade with other people, buy singles. So there's plenty of options, but for things, if you're just on a tight budget and you want to look into just buying two of the same starter deck, he's going to be who you're stuck with. As this is a mainly Hope deck, I'm going to be running 5 Hope Power because of Levi's ability that allows me to place 2 power cards from my hand into my power pool per turn. I want to be running into power cards to fill that up as quickly as possible. So I'm going to be running 5 of those and 3 of my Faith, as Faith is my secondary color in this deck. So I've got those. I am going to start off with my universals. I'm going to run 2 Herald Dash. I really like Herald Dash's action that allows all the players, so it's more than just a 2-player game. This can be used in a 4-player game as well. And it allows us to select a story card from our discard pile and shuffle it back into our deck. I only run 2 of these simply because he's a 3 for 8. And early game, that's going to be really difficult to get. So I use that. And due to early deck, I'm going to go ahead and run 2 Sea Curl. He's a 1 for 3, which isn't bad, but if I do have that off-color power kind of in that beginning, or if I'm running something that needs to be, shuffled back, that 1 for 3 is going to be really helpful just to kind of get it out there. Continuing with our universals, I run 2 of the Flamingo level 1. I will probably never actually play this one by itself. The cat's trying to come through the cat door and she's silly. I run 2 of the Flamingo level 2, which is awesome. It's a 2 for 12 if you get that. If you get that. Sorry, the cat's making me giggle. So yeah, if you are able to get that fellowship bonus there, that's pretty great. So Flamingo is pretty cool. Yeah. So I run 3 Silcrow level 1. Phenomenal card. When this card's played from your hand into your small group, you get to draw a card. So boom, free draw. Because of that, I also have 3 Silcrow level 2. When this card is played from your hand to grow Silcrow level 1, you may shuffle your hand back into your deck and draw 5 cards. And keep in mind, it does say may, it does not mean you have to. I run 3 Aurora because Aurora's ability is phenomenal. This card, if this card is in your small group, it provides 1 hope power during your score phase. This card may not be activated in the turn that its ability is played, but if you have 2 in your small group, you can pay 1 to pay the other. So Aurora is phenomenal. I run 3 Percy level 1. When this card is played from your hand into your small group, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, take 1, and return the rest in any order. This is really great to use like before a story card that you just get to draw cards, things like that. Or if you wanted to play this one before your Silcrow and then you just draw one, it's really great to stack the top of your deck. I run 2 Percy level 2. Number 1, because he's just amazing, and number 2, he's shiny.
He's also the main character of the deck.
Yep, he is our leader guy there. And also, you have these awesome minis that come in this, and just look at that. Yeah, he's beautiful. He's very majestic is what he is. So this one has an action that you search your deck for any 2 cards, place them in your hand, and shuffle it afterwards. So I love that action. It is super helpful to get your hand ready for your next turn. Moving on to our Faith, I run 3 Trusty level 1. He is adorable. He's a 2 for 5, which is not bad.
His Bible verse isn't a paragraph.
Yes, that's also very accurate. And I also run 3 Trusty Level 2, which Trusty Level 2 is a great card with an awesome ability. For each Trusty in your discard pile, you may remove 1 cost to activate this animal. And because it does not specify levels, it can be any number of these. So you can pay absolutely nothing for this card if you have it in your discard pile correctly. Bishop, no. I run 2 Spark Cube Level 1 and 2 Spark Cube Level 2. Now, keeping in mind, the cost does not change for these, which I think is really cool. So you can have a 1, discard 1 for 4, or a discard 1 for 7. Now, this working in context with some of the equipment cards is great, because you can also have it as a 1 for 10. Now, the equipment card specifically that I'm talking about is our frankincense, because if the animal to whom this card is attached has any discard costs, they can be converted into just a regular cost. So you can throw one of those on there, and now he's just a 1 for 10, and you don't have to discard your power card for that. So I think that's really great. 1 for 7 or a 1 for 10 is just absolutely great. So starting off on our equipment, I do go ahead and run 2 of those. And then equally in the gold side of things, in the hope side of things, I run gold. It does the same thing except for hope. Whereas hope does not discard it, it just shuffles it back into your deck.
Those cards are just absolutely fantastic.
Yes. If I had more room, I'd probably run a 3rd one of each one. Moving on to story cards, I have 2 of the Runaway. The Runaway is great. It allows us to select an animal from your discard pile and return it to your hand, not your deck. Next, I have 2 Hidden Treasure. I get to place 1 card from my hand on the bottom of my deck. If I do that, I get to draw 3 cards, which is great if I need to kind of shuffle things out of my hand if I don't want to discard them. And then finally, for story cards, I have the Rich Fool. I just get to draw the bottom 3 cards of my deck. So he's really cool. Just a free draw, but it's on the bottom of your deck. So unfortunately, you can't stack this in any way, but that is okay. Moving on to Hindrance Cards, I only run the 1. It is the Roman Scourge. Universal Animo may not be activated against the Cine to whom this card is attached, as long as the Cine is active. If this card is attached to a Cine that's currently battling any Universal Animo, those Animo must be returned to the opponent's hand, which I think is great. And then finally moving on to my Cines. Again, if you're going to be running budget decks like we're talking about, then you will only have the 1 chance for the Cines. You're not going to be able to change up your Cines at all because there are the same ones and you can't run more than 1 of a name. So I have Denalia. As long as the Cine remains active, your opponent may not use their Truth Seeker's power. Not ability, but their power. And also, the weakness for this one is Professor, which I think is cool. Next, we have Pogo. He's an eye for an eye. When the Cine is revealed, both you and your opponent must discard the top card of your deck. And his weakness is Cordial. Next, we have Fearcrow, kind of throwing back to our OG. We get to choose a level 2 or 3 Animo from your opponent's small group. You revert that Animo back to a level 1 by having your opponent shuffle the growth stages for that Animo back into their deck, which is awesome. If they are trying to build up to like their Treshall level 3, you just be like, no. Or if they use their Treshall level 3 in a previous turn for power, and like you know that they're going to be playing it this turn, no, they don't get to play that anymore. Next, we have Hookworm. The ability is as long as the Cine is active, all of your opponent's Animo require 1 extra universal cost in order to be activated. And his weakness is Alpha Lux Ultra, specifically. Oh, also Fearcrow's weakness is Guppies level 2, which is a new addition for this set. Nastry is a rotten fruit. Any Animo and any attached cards that remain in your opponent's small group following their next turn must be shuffled into their deck. And his weakness is Raspberry. It does not specify color or level. So if you know you're going to be facing that one, find your easiest Raspberry verse. Next we have Wolf. If this card is in your hand, you may choose to show it to your opponent and shuffle it back into your deck. If you do, you get to draw another card. So this one is actually really cool because if instead of like discarding it or something, you have the opportunity to just draw a card with this instead, which I actually think is great.
And it's still a 10.
And it's still a 10. Like, it's huge. It's great. It's pretty cool. So, and finally, we have our Anxietor. He's worried sick. Your opponent may not play any story or equipment cards on their next turn. And his weakness is So-Crow Ultra. Again, specifying those ultras, which I think is cool. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Wolf's weakness is Flow, which is a sheep, which is just great. So, yeah, so if you're wanting to do any sort of budget decks, this is what we have. Oh, plus my flamingo up there. But, yeah, so this is going to be our Percy budget deck using Levi.
All
Any
right.
final words?
No, I think that this is a great way of just being able to just get two decks, put them together, and just have something that is mildly competitive, just to start off with.
Yep.
All right. So in the meantime, True Seekers, just keep learning virtues and defeating cities.